Call November 3rd, Plan Commission meeting order. Ms. X, please call the roll. Mr. Martinez, please call the roll. What color are you? There you go.
Mayor Olson,
Here.
Commissioner Hogan,
Here.
Commissioner Buckhart,
Here.
Commissioner Haley,
Here.
Assistant City Engineer Bainlich,
Here.
Alderwoman Henneman,
Here.
We have a
Commissioner
quorum.
Leon is absent.
We have a quorum. Please rise during the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is approval of the regular meeting minutes of October 6th. Any additions or corrections?
Second.
Hogan, Hanneman. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have no public hearings this evening. We move on to business matters. Item D1, Jupiter Events Indoor. They're asking for a craft and relic market at the Milwaukee County Sports Complex, which is a temporary use. Ms. X.
That's correct. So this temporary use request is a repeat customer. These folks would like to use the sports complex facility. The terms of that special use approval do not include this type of use. And because it's for multiple dates, it does need to come to the Plan Commission. So they're requesting for November 12th and 13th, January 28th and through 30th, 2023, and April 15th through 16th, 2023, for the event itself. So it'll be open to the public from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday with VIP access, starting at 9 a.m. on Saturday, and then the event planners will be on site for setup and breakdown. So the health department does want to make sure to remind them that they have to get licenses for all of the food vendors that will be on site. And so that is the only recommended condition of approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Is there a motion to adopt a resolution imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of temporary use for a craft and relic market ticketed curated shopping event for property located at 6,000 West Ryan Road, subject to the health department concerns as well? Hanneman, Hogan. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Move on to the next item, item D2, which is a lot division at 7726 West Drexel. It's a certified survey map for Rick Brisbilla.
That's correct. So this is a certified survey map request for the parcel at 7726 West Drexel Avenue. It is one of two CSMs that are here tonight from this property owner, and with a future that explains some of the division request. So the lot at 7726 is here as you see. Let's see if this, I'm not going to do that. He is requesting to split the front of this lot, the southern portion of the parcel, off of the property and create an outlot at the rear. Both of these proposed lots meet the R6 zoning requirements. There is also a road dedication. A portion of the current property belongs to the property owner, but would be more appropriately part of the right-of-way. So this very narrow strip here is proposed to be dedicated to the city of Franklin to become part of the right-of-way. The lot for parcel 1 having been developed and already having a house on it, the applicant did obtain a letter of no resource from a wetland delineator, and the rear lot will have a full natural resource protection plan produced for the proposed subdivision that will be placed there in some theoretical future, but at this time, as no development is proposed, we didn't require that. So it will be designated as an outlot, and that designation would require Common Council approval to remove through a certified survey map, which would, at that point, you could require the full delineation. So I believe there are one or two very minor technical issues remaining with the CSM itself that can be resolved with the surveyor, and otherwise we have no further comments on the application. So I do recommend the inclusion of a condition related to the full natural resource protection plan, and of course a technical corrections condition. So are there any questions? The applicant is here as well, so.
And Marion just said what I was going to say. Applicant is here. Any questions for staff or the applicant? Alderwoman Hanneman. Hold on.
Good, thanks. Really, the only big question I have, and I received a phone call today from someone asking about this, and I didn't have an answer, but wondering the residential development that would go on those northern new parcels. Would Ridgewood Drive be the only access coming through in something like a cul-de-sac? There would be no road being able to come between the properties on Drexel Avenue. And that was what I figured, but I just wanted to, get that on the record. So thanks.
That's correct. And I will note that the cul-de-sac, there is a length restriction, and the applicant believes he'll be able to meet that requirement.
Okay.
So under the current UDO. So what the slide that you're looking at now is both CSM. So what you see is the two lots that are subject to this evening's discussion, and then the yellow box is generally where the subdivision will be. So, but that is not before you this evening, just to be clear.
Thanks.
And since the applicant's here, regular, can you have your mic? Rick, give us your name and head.
I just wanted to ask a question. When you're saying the full natural resource plan, that's for the outlot when we bring in the subdivision,
Correct.
and not
Yeah,
pertaining-
you've met your requirements
Okay.
for this application.
Okay.
Any future development in the outlots you
Yes.
would be required to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Rick, give us your name and address, and then I've got a question.
Rick Frisbella, 9244 West Grandview Court, Franklin, Wisconsin.
With all due respect to my predecessor, Robert McDonald, Grandview's a better name. So anyway, what are we doing with 7808? Are we going to see a similar application?
7832,
So,
it's a similar thing.
7808 is already, the lot line is here.
oh, okay, good.
So,
Any other questions? Commissioner Haley?
Just for clarity, so the intention is to extend Ridgewood Drive through to a cul-de-sac?
That is correct. Under 800 feet.
Regulo, do you have a motion? Just go ahead and read it.
A motion to recommend approval of a resolution conditionally approving a one lot and one outlot certified survey map, being all that part of the southeast quarter of Section 9, Township 5 North, Range 21 East, in the city of Franklin, County of Milwaukee, State of Wisconsin, at 7726 West Drexel Avenue.
Is there such a motion? Henneman and Burkhart. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. The opposed? Motion carries. Similarly, 7832 is our next agenda item, item D3.
thank you, Mayor. This is the same applicant. The property address is 7832 West Drexel. There are some slight differences with this request. The applicant is proposing two lots and one outlot. So the two lots also front on Drexel Avenue, and he proposes to remove the existing buildings and make these available for development. There is also a much larger road dedication as part of this certified survey map, so then the right-of-way will align with the neighboring properties. The rear outlot has a number of outbuildings on it at this time. Once it is split from the property, those must be removed because we do not allow accessory structures without a principal structure. That's a recommended condition of approval. Lot 1 will be 15,284 square feet, and lot 2 will be 16,597 square feet, and the proposed outlot 90,664 square feet. So these do meet the zoning requirements. As with the other parcel, the same delineator provided a letter of no resource for the two developed lots, and the rear lot will require a full natural resource protection plan should it be developed. So again, there's a recommended condition about technical corrections, and staff has no further comments. Are there any questions? One other note, though, is that we have discussed Ridgewood Drive, which does touch this parcel. If the applicant chose to develop this without putting in a subdivision here, he would still need either a land division variance or would need to install a cul-de-sac should this lot develop independently. So that's been discussed, but I just want to make sure the commission is aware.
Questions from the commission? Commissioner Haley.
I think it's just a technical thing. On the CSM top center, there's a note that says, note existing structures on parcels 1, 2, and 3 to be raised. I think we've got an error there because if I'm guessing right, it's outlot 1, parcel 1, and parcel 2. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, and it does include the residents on parcel 2. You're gonna clear everything. Okay, but
Homesteads on both parcel 1 and parcel 1.
okay, then it's just a matter of cleaning up the text at the top of the CSM, because they'll find that. The outlot 1, parcel 1, and parcel 2. I see it.
Regula.
A motion to recommend approval of a resolution conditionally approving a 2-lot and 1 outlot certified survey map, being all that part of the southeast quarter of Section 9, Township 5 North, Range 21 East, in the city of Franklin, County of Milwaukee, state of Wisconsin, at 7832 West Drexel Avenue.
There's such a motion. Hogan and Hanneman. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Rick.
You're welcome.
Sad and Mary. Okay, for the record, I bought my lot from Rick 23 years ago. I've known him for probably 35 years, so that's why it's Rick and Mary. Anyway, okay. Yeah, my money went to him, not his come to me. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Unified Development Ordinance Rewrite Task Force, which we are. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. Based on the previous workshop, we decided to hold this informative session with the staff and the Plan Commission before we bring the consultant. So the consultant will be here for the next meeting, explaining in detail the articles 5 and 6, that is general standards and sign standards. So can you go to the next slide, please? Just to refresh where we are on the,
We're just getting oriented, and then we
Yeah.
can go back to them.
I'll be fast. So we are on the draft of the articles of the UDO. So the previous workshop was from Article 1 to 4, and now we have this section for Article 5 and 6. Next slide, please. Okay, I just want to mention that Article 5, the general development standards, will focus on the regulation of parking, driveway, landscaping, fencing, building design, outdoor lighting, and vision clearance. Tonight, I will just focus on the highlights of these articles. I will not do a full presentation of all the topics. So for parking, the main change is that the current UDO established minimum parking ratios. Now we're going from minimum parking ratios to maximum parking ratios.
Let the record reflect a thumbs up from the mayor.
So then,
I'll even say it. Yeah.
this is a view of the table. I mean, the full table is in your draft for your review and consideration. So next slide, please. Okay. Now we go directly to the questions. So these are the questions where staff and the consultant are asking for policy direction from the task force and the Plan Commission. So this is about the pedestrian circulation standards. This is new. We don't have these standards in the current UDO. We have similar standards in the Ballpark Commons PDD, but we don't have it for the entire city. So these pedestrian circulation standards is basically to require any new multifamily, commercial, and mixed-use development to provide walkways between any building entrance and any sidewalk, existing sidewalk on the right of way. So it's basically will be walkway or marked lines to delineate the path for pedestrians. So the question is, are these pedestrian circulation standards appropriate for Franklin, that is mostly a suburban community, or are these not appropriate because are more like urban standards? So that is the questions. In your draft article, it will be on page 9 if we want to go on detail on that. So.
Anyone want to kick this one first? Oh. Okay. So Kevin says it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea too. However, there is one under section C. I don't see any method that you can do walkways as a goat path. So if the natural tendencies of a human being are to go that way and the sidewalks are at right angles, what ability do we have to permit that?
Well, the intent is to provide like the most direct route. That's the intent.
Yeah, so if you come out of, let's say that's a door there, door 3, and you want to get to your car, which is over here, the direct path, according to the way this is going to be laid out, is this way, and then that way. So we just need, in my view, we need to make sure that the rules are not so stringent that you can't, if there was a way, you could also run a sidewalk here, whatever. I don't want this to be nailed in stone such that the walkways are never used.
Okay.
Goal is to have them used, right? For pedestrian safety.
So
I said that real clearly, didn't I?
yeah, or flexibility on the path of the walkways. Okay. Okay. Next slide, please. So based on the input that we received in the previous session, then the consultant is proposing to add electric vehicle charging station. So the question is will the city prefer more stringent measure or less stringent for an incentive to have more electric vehicle charging station? So then the proposal is 2 different standards depending if it's for multifamily residential or for commercial or mixed use. So there's a ratio of 1 electric vehicle charging station per every 25 off-street parking spaces.
I don't know how that works out. I'm wondering that if today that's too high, but in the future it'll be too low. But I think we need to be careful. We need an example of this. We need a couple of numbers. Of maybe we can take a couple of existing developments and run these numbers just to see what it looks like.
Okay.
Maybe just run it for City Hall. Because here I can see 2 stations in front and 2 in the back, and you're kind of done. So I'm just concerned about the ratio.
Okay.
But good idea.
Okay.
Hanneman. Lund?
What
I'll hit you
Oak Creek
if you-
does since they just went through this process,
Okay.
so that we're somewhat consistent across the region.
So I won't, but I'll just tell you that we'll do it better.
Of course, of course we will.
Anybody else on this? Kevin, Commissioner Haley.
But maybe it's combination of both. We have the minimum standard, but also offer an incentive for additional above and beyond.
Okay.
Uh, Exceptions for something on the site plan,
Additional dwelling units. The units, residential units for multifamily.
garden pool.
Okay.
I guess all I was looking for clarification on was infrastructure as it relates to the parking structures. Electric vehicle, lithium-ion battery fires are notoriously hard to fight, and that infrastructure should include fire protection, which doesn't have an established standard for that fire yet, but there's going to need to be some kind of accommodation made for that kind of thing, especially in a parking structure, which right now I think
Okay.
the pertinent guidance is NFPA 855, which doesn't allow indoor charging, I don't think.
I see. I didn't know that. Thank you.
So just for grins, it's a park, we only have one parking structure in this city, and that's NM's. Is indoor, is that considered indoor? Because there's no walls, but it's got parapets above and below. And
Yeah, I think it's enclosure on one side and covering and a floor below foundation.
so that
Enclosure on three sides. I think is how it's phrased in 855.
Interesting.
We can run it past the fire department.
Mhm.
Okay. Commissioner Alderwoman.
Thanks. Follow-up question to what you just brought up, and I'm wondering, are there requirements that the electric charging stations have to be on the ground floor of parking structures, or can they be on any floor? Okay. Just popped into my head is that something that we need to spell out as part of this section?
Probably not, but you know, companies are using charging stations as incentives to go electric, so I would prefer we not get in the middle of that. Let them put them where they want them, but, because people would say, well, you ought to have the charging station, if it was here, right next to the handicaps, right up in front. I'm saying, customer service, nah, put them across. So. Okay, I knew that would get Kevin.
No, it didn't.
Good.
Can't we just make a reference to local fire code, that it needs to be compliant with that in the future? And then ask the fire chief to, I mean, you might want to put specific language in there, but we don't have to deal with it until an application's received. And we usually get staff review.
Yeah, there's no fire code that deals with that yet, and there won't be probably for some time. That's why it's such a big problem. Because there's really no approved method for extinguishing a lithium-ion fire, no consolidated criteria. It's kind of an open question, and it's a newer technology that, again, technology's outpacing the ability to protect that.
Consistent with all then current standards and codes.
Yeah, and the question is just, does the infrastructure include appropriate sizing of fire protection systems to get the density that you may need there? Because that's going to be a key part of it. It's going to be almost impossible to go back and put that in after the fact.
I can tell you that the Franklin Fire Department, I'm going to use the term expert, and that's an improper use, but is an expert at lithium-ion fires, because we had one at S&C Electric 2 years ago in a lithium-ion battery manufacturing facility, storage of
It was a bit
manufactured
longer
products.
ago. Yeah,
That was a nice
I
fire.
provided some equipment for that one.
And it ended up, what put it out? Water.
And lots of, and that's the
Lots of
infrastructure
it, yeah.
question. You need to have a sufficient supply to
Yeah.
get that density of water there.
Yeah, Commissioner Burkhardt references lots of water. They deluged the place in order to put it out. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
okay. Anyone else on this? Anything else, Regula, on this one?
No.
Thanks. Go ahead.
This is for residential driveways. The proposal is to impose a limit for the residential driveways. This will be 12 feet for residential driveway. So is this appropriate for Franklin, for single family and duplex residential?
How did we arrive at 12 feet?
Well, the standard travel lane is 10 feet, so it's really a little bit wider the standard travel lane.
But we don't differentiate for a two-car facing, with the garage facing the street on a wide lot with a short setback. Most people just pave the width of the garage, which is what, 18 feet?
Well, one note here, yeah, the width will be for what is called the driveway part that is area. Because this will have a different definition that is called the garage access driveway. So for this area, then we don't have that maximum width. Maximum width, it's recommended only for area that is the approach to the right-of-way line.
I'm not so sure I'm on board with this. Because, frankly, midway up my driveway, I'm more than 18 feet. Midway up my driveway. At the street, I'm probably 12 feet at the street. But it widens. And that's what looks good on my lot. That's what I wanted. And I got a side entry garage, so, but I need it. So I'm not so sure I'm
Okay.
thrilled with it with 12 feet. I'd say maximum 18. Because then at least they could put their two-car garage. They got 4 kids and each one of them has a car, Kevin. At least that gives them some opportunity to park their cars. Look at your house, Patty. You'd have to butt the driveway in a little bit. And on your lot, that'd be a pain because you almost have to use your driveway to turn around in to get out safely, but you guys have mastered that over the years. Marion?
So the driveway width being described here is what's at essentially the property line. So I'm wondering if that will then dictate what the curb cut looks like. Does engineering have any comments on like how that's going to impact street usage, plowing, that kind of
18-foot curb cut.
Yeah, typically, I mean, our minimum is 12 feet. What we have in our standards is 12 to 24 feet. And looking at some newer subdivisions, they all are about 18 feet on average, I would say. Most, that's what people tend to
flares?
lean to. No, that's at the actual right-of-way line, so when the flares taper back in. At the actual street, they can be up to 30 feet where the flares kick out at the curb line, but.
Alderman Henneman?
Could we set a range? Minimum of 12 feet, maximum 18?
No, only a minimum is proposed for the
Okay.
driveway.
And
Sorry, a maximum, sorry.
Okay, because I have a driveway very similar to that. But it's also a very steep driveway. I'm going to say about 35, 40 degrees, like up into my garage. And I've got a tree, massive old oak tree, right where it angles off to the right. And I'm just speaking from, so I've got a big old oak tree right there.
Where's your moat?
It's, the moat is here, because we have a very, very deep ditch right there. Several times, and I'm not even blaming it on my kids, but we've had to call a tow truck to pull the car out of the ditch. Because pulling out of the driveway and then going to the left and back down to the right, and if it's a little bit icy, if it's a little bit steep. So I'm just trying to think of all of the different topographic possibilities that could be going on with that, so that there's a little bit of leeway for people who do maybe have some of those interesting situations. I'd really like my driveway to be a little wider.
Okay. Yeah, and the other disadvantage of this maximum width is that many of the existing driveways will become legal non-conforming driveways. So,
So mark this down.
Okay.
So perhaps we need to do this one as a minimum. And at that point, I would leave it at 12 feet.
Okay.
And say a minimum of, shall be a minimum of 12. And if you need to put a maximum down, I don't know where to go.
well, it's the current maximum 24, right, Tyler? Yeah.
Go off of, yeah,
Maximum 24.
24 at the property line. It would be 30 foot at the curb line.
So,
Okay.
any objections? No objections. I have an issue. We're gonna talk about this. Okay. This one right here. This does not permit somebody from asphalting their driveway, which is a problem in the west side of the city and some on the east side of the city where the driveways are asphalt.
Okay.
That would be more more non-conformings than you would have with the 12-foot rule. So. But Tyler, we don't have them chip sealed.
We can do that if needed. Finally picked it up from the DPW.
I had a couple of comments on the single-family and duplex standards. Limit of one single slab or ribbon driveway and one curb cut per 75 feet of lot frontage.
Sorry, Mayor. Which page? Are
I'm
you?
sorry, page 12. How does that work with a cul-de-sac? Because what they're doing here is requiring, well, they're not requiring, sorry, I'm backwards. I don't know that impacts a cul-de-sac. I read the 75 foot and thought it was minimum, so I'm back to our old UDO. Okay, so I guess I'm okay with that one, sorry. Next,
Okay.
anybody else? Driveways? Anybody else? Okay.
Chain link fences. For fencing, there's a list of the permitted materials. We have different permitted materials for masonry, vegetation, wood, etc. But chain link fence is not a permitted material. It drops 15%. So and that is a question for policy direction to allow or to prohibit chain link fences.
I'm not a fan, but there are places where they ought to be allowed, but you can get that via,
This is for residential. Sorry, I didn't mention that.
I mean, Kevin lives on 116th Street. What's the issue with a chain link fence on 116th Street? Nobody will see it. But if you wanted one, you can come in for a variance, right?
Yeah, that will be an option.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody? Two politicians in a room, only one spoke up. Well, I guess we know who's going to hear about it in the election.
Residential?
My retort to that is what happens after year 5. When the vinyl starts degrading and starts shedding.
Then their neighbors are going to call their alderman.
And the alderman needs something to stand on to say you got to fix it. Marion?
The existing code and I believe the proposed code have maintenance requirements in them that they have to be kept in good condition, so that would be,
Who's going to enforce that?
well, that is a valid question.
Pushing all the buttons tonight. All right, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Yep, please. Okay, this is totally new for the zoning ordinance. This is in page 30. This is about exterior building materials. The current UDO does not regulate the exterior building materials, except, like, for example, the South 27th District. So you have this table in page 30. So it's have two categories: residential, commercial, mixed use, institutional in one category, and delimited industrial in another category. And then there are several building materials, from masonry, lap siding to vinyl siding. So the intent with this table is to encourage some materials, like, for example, masonry on the first column, and to discourage the materials on the right side of the table, like, for example, vinyl siding or unfinished concrete block. This is a totally new standard for Franklin.
And I'm good with a standard, but then I look at this and I relate it to my house. So front street side requires a minimum of 50% masonry for all residential.
Well, residential, commercial, mixed use, institutional, yeah.
But for every house that gets built henceforth, half of it's got to be masonry. It just says
Well,
residential.
residential is here, yeah. Well, check on that.
So now you're getting an attorney on me here.
Because I question the same thing,
Yeah.
especially.
Sherry.
Oh, my comment to that would be
Scroll down, yeah.
the cost imposition for people, and how does that play into any initiatives to improve affordable housing in the city of Franklin?
Dovetailing off of that, the masonry requirement, is that face brick or you got to put full brick and stone on it? Or can you use,
Mm-hmm.
architectural concrete masonry, you would be face brick? Okay. Okay, so to answer my concern, Regulo, then we need to put multifamily residential in the chart,
The table, okay.
so it won't confuse old guys like me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Makes
Um,
sense.
Half the front. Let's think of what's been built in the last 5 years in terms of multifamily. Statesman, I don't recall there's brick on that, but I don't think it's 50%. I don't think. Before,
Oh.
all right, let's do it this way. Regular, if you could do a quick survey, maybe building inspection can help you on what's been put up last several years
For multifamily residential.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
for masonry.
Okay.
Whether it meets this or not. I'd be concerned. I like the standard, but I'm concerned it'd be a bit onerous. And I think everybody's heard me, I'm done with this post-industrial look. So going back to masonry would be a good thing, but regular?
Yeah, the other question is for institutional. it is appropriate to exclude institutional from this requirement, like for example, churches, government buildings that have special design and architecture.
I'm okay with that, but thinking about it, churches would be the ones that would use the most brick.
School.
Right, but it will not be mandatory.
Yeah. So we're willing to let ourselves off the hook, but not the commercial developers. Had to say it. Kevin?
I would just make the comment that masonry products and such are more expensive up front, but life supplies, they last longer, they're easier to maintain, so it may not be always on.
I'll go with whatever the commission wants. I'm just raising these questions so we think about it. If you can just do a quick survey of what we put
Sorry.
up.
Yeah. Okay.
Hogan?
My wonderful neighbor next door has cedar.
So,
The whole house is cedar. You need to do something with that every year. You've got to, whatever the thing is. He has not done it since he's been there. How does that fit in there being on the main street of the city?
oh, so we're making this about you?
No, I'm just,
Teasing you.
no, I'm not making it about me. I'm making it about can people still do cedar for homes building now if they want?
Yeah, that would be lap siding.
Okay.
Yeah. Not on this chart. Are we finished with the exterior of the building? Because I have one comment regarding facade articulation. I would add another section that relates to roof line.
Okay.
I would like to see some articulation of roof lines. There's several houses in the city that nothing but roof. And it looks terrible. Henneman?
Thank you. I have a topic that I'd like to address, and I don't know if it kind of goes in landscaping or if it goes in the area of fencing. But retaining walls. I haven't seen anything in there, unless I've missed it, because I have a troublesome retaining wall in my district. And staff has reported to me that we can't really do anything about it because we don't have anything in the code. In terms of, so I'm wondering, do we want to address height, percentage of your frontage or side yard? I think a setback should be similar from the property line. And some maintenance issues. So when it's structurally starting to cave and become a safety issue.
Well, in the current UDO, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, that the retaining walls are regulating the engineering standards. Is that correct?
We usually, for any new development, have standards for anything over 3 feet that they have to be designed by a professional engineer, and typically require like a guardrail or fence on anything over 3 feet. But I don't think there's anything specifically in the code. That's just in our engineering design standards, and also that it has to be 5 feet from the property.
Yeah, we do have that. I'm sorry. So I was not correct on that one.
But we don't have anything in regards
You know,
to
like
maintenance
we
or-
say that fences have to be kept in good repair, but we don't say anything about the retaining walls.
Yeah, retaining walls must be maintained as plumb. What's the correct term? Oh, yeah, so we got one. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thanks. Good catch. That's why we give you the big bucks.
So I have from City Engineer Morrow some suggested verbiage. So should I just pass that on
Okay.
to you?
Okay, yes, please.
Okay, awesome.
I would just point out with retaining walls, I live by the lesson in life that don't build a wall unless you absolutely need it. But they're out there, you know, highway projects where you've got big grade cuts, we've already got them 15, 20 footers. That's why I think having an engineer design and stamp the plans covers you there, but I don't know that you're gonna be able to set a maximum height. I think anything over 3 feet, like you're saying, needs to go through rigorous review. But you can't say no to retaining walls, because you're gonna end up saying no to a lot of building.
Okay, where do you want to go next? I hijacked this. That's what I do. Oh, wait, okay, let's not go to that yet.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in, go to page 32. There's a chart about maximum lighting height. In the RM RV district, 15 feet might not work in the village of St. Martin's. Might be too tall, too high, whatever. So we need to check that against reality. And all I'm saying is, go to dinner with your significant other and at Wegner's, and then when you're there, just see what's going on.
Okay.
Alderman Hanneman.
How do excessive Christmas lights fall into this? And I mean this in all seriousness. As people's LED lighting displays are getting pretty, and believe me, I love to look at them, but if a neighbor comes to the city and says, you know, my neighbor's got these lights flashing, you know, till 2 a.m. with all the holiday music playing, you know, what do we fall back on? Do we have any enforcement, or do we just have to say, you're going to have to just wait until February when it all comes down again?
We have the maximum foot candle level at the proper lane. So if we receive a complaint, we can go and measure that, but that's rare.
Yeah.
In 3 years, we have only received one complaint about lighting, residential lighting.
Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to create a problem. I'm really not. The question popped in my head.
Can we back up? I got a couple other things.
Sure.
If we go to page 2, a general comment about parking regulations. We always put it as the standard being met based on gross floor area ratios. I'm thinking that it might be more appropriate to, this is general comment though, it's not a specific item. It might be appropriate to look at the use of the building, and I don't know how we do this, but our consultants are pretty smart. We're using gross floor area ratios. Actually, we're using number of rooms for the memory care place next door. They got parking all the way around the building, and they use 8 spots. It's a memory care unit. Why do they need all that parking in asphalt?
Well, that's why now new table is establishing maximum parking ratio.
Yeah, I've got some comments on that too. But if you go to community living, senior housing, nursing care, which I would guess would be, oh wait, I'm wrong. It's a half a unit per dwelling unit. It's a half a stall per dwelling unit. So they've got 60 rooms there, need 30 parking spots?
Are allowed a maximum of.
Maximum,
Yeah.
okay. All right. You use my own words against me. I like it. All right, moving on that. I had a concern about industrial uses parking. And I will just remind everybody that I read these things pretty fast because I get more than one thing to read at a time. It's 1 per every 1,000 square feet. I'm thinking that maybe the number of employees, since this is manufacturing, industrial use,
Okay.
more appropriate measure would be number of employees.
Okay.
Car wash, what do they need one per stall? What does that mean? Page 4. That's just a question. Nursing care. I'm sorry, I'm jumping back and forth.
Right.
Nursing care, one per dwelling unit? Most of the people in nursing homes don't have cars. I'm okay with visitors, but you don't get one visitor per dwelling unit at the same time.
But again, Mayor,
It's
these are
maximum.
maximums, yeah.
I got it. Now, you keep reminding me of that because parking stalls on page 6, 9 feet. I think 8 is the general standard, so we're 6 inches on either side. I'd love to see it 10-foot wide.
Okay.
Is that what it used to be?
Very common, 10 by 20.
But now the UDO requires less parking in quantity. Number.
That's all fine, but if it's less parking, more narrow, you're still getting your car banged up.
No, that's why it makes sense the 10-foot wide parking stall.
Any objections
Yeah.
to 10 foot?
No.
Any objections to 30 foot? I got,
Any objections to putting a sign in every parking lot in the city that says reserved for the mayor?
yeah, I'd object to that. I would like a sign that says the lines are painted for a purpose. Anyway, okay. Thank you. I hope you're not finding me wasting your time. Next page, page 8. Kevin, sorry.
Back on 4 of 33, the top, there's no standard in there. I think it might be the 1 in 300 square feet from the previous page. See the empty
Oh,
box?
yeah.
Let's figure out what that is. And I think that may be something, it's formatting because these are larger charts, and when they paginate them, things are getting chopped mid-block.
Let's see. Made some note between paragraph 4A and B that said driveway, so I'd have to reread what, to figure out what that means. Parking of trucks and equipment at the bottom of page 10, at the bottom of page 8. This prohibits parking of trucks, but we should permit the PD to offer permits for temporary use.
Yeah, that's why in the 10C that we have the conditional use. Or
That's a conditional use. That
Mhm.
doesn't allow somebody to have a truck parked in his driveway or area overnight without violating the ordinance. So.
for that, they will need to obtain first the conditional use.
Yeah, which means a public hearing. Let's not go, we're trying to make things, we need to allow the police department to use their better judgment and let it happen for a short period of time. Week or less.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that, based on experience, like for example from complaints, we have a case that a landscape business was run from a residential property, and the only evidence that we have to enforce the zoning ordinance was that they have equipment, large trucks, skid loader parked there, and then with the ordinance prohibiting that parking, that was the way to make the owner comply with the ordinance.
I don't have an issue with that. What I'm proposing, I don't think would impact that. If the police department were offered the opportunity to offer a short-term permit to violate the ordinance. It's similar to overnight parking in the wintertime. If it's not going to snow, the PD issues overnight
Okay.
parking permits for the street. All you do is you call up and say, I need to park my car on the street. They say, okay, and they write it down and off they go.
Okay. So
I'm not gonna
to
yeah. fall on the sword on this one, but
okay. So to add a provision to allow for like temporary
yeah.
parking. Okay.
We did the goat path thing on the next page. I'm done. Anybody? All right, our favorite thing, signs.
Okay. Okay. Currently, the sign section is part of the municipal code, so the proposal is to incorporate the signing standards into the new UDO. So the new language is way different than the existing language that we have in the municipal code.
Hey, Regulo, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Not that sorry, but I'm saying it to be a nice guy. Do you want to, you've moved on to signs, but I've got stuff under landscaping, and
Sure. Yeah.
do you want to do it that way?
Yeah. We can go back to
And I
landscaping.
I hope Kevin's
Yep.
got some things. Let's see. Page. We did that one. We did, okay, required landscaping, page, first one on page 21. Talks about irrigation. Is this a requirement or recommendation? Paragraph D.
The current UDO requires irrigation. So yeah, so this is not changing the provision of the current UDO.
Okay, so every new non-residential's got to have irrigation.
Yeah, and that's what is.
I was not aware that that was a
Yeah,
current
mhm,
requirement,
yeah.
so shut up. Okay. Down to G, maintenance, responsibility for maintenance. We need something about abutting right-of-ways and easements located in the property. We get too
Okay.
many people saying, I don't need to cut the right-of-way, that's the city's.
Okay.
It is, but we just have right to use it, not, we don't own it. Residential should, you could take that frontage in your ditch and never mow it. I know, that's what I'm saying, we need to codify that. Should. Well, that's a different issue, but. Right. But there's nothing in our ordinances that say that you have to. I'm saying we should say that you have to. You have to maintain it. Hmm? Yeah, you gotta shovel the sidewalk.
Yeah, I can consult with city attorney.
Okay, that's that. Marion,
I just want to address that because I think you're probably expressing a concern. Some areas of right of way are really large between a house and the street. So if it's, I'm not talking about a street frontage per se, but if someone has like a side lot that is a city-owned property, what that distinction between right of way and like a city-owned parcel probably should be made.
yeah, I agree,
So
100%. Page 23, screening. You got a section on grease traps, and trash containers and all that. I'm going to express a personal preference that can easily be overridden without an argument. But I believe that grease traps, trash facilities, and recycling receptacles ought not be visible from the street, from a street. Or the street.
So,
Trash enclosures, grease traps, et cetera, shouldn't be visible from primary street. I don't know. Somebody argue with me. Or somebody agree with me. Give me some cover. This is for commercial, I believe.
Uh,
Well, you can
Then-
always get a variance.
if a certain special conditions apply, like it's located in a corner, have 3 sides fronting a street, then they can apply for a variance. Yeah.
This is an effort to bring our city up, as opposed to people putting their recycling containers in the front of their garage, in the front of their house. Worried about those that don't. Page 25, let's see. I got a note that I can't read and don't understand, so we'll pass on that one. Page 27, fencing. Understanding that we have a variance procedure, but I believe Plan Commission ought to be able to approve fencing that is higher than 8 feet as we,
Correct. Yeah. Well, for non-residential, because for
yes.
residential we go to the BZBA. Yeah.
yep. Okay, I think that's it. Anybody else have anything? Kevin?
Start fresh with landscape, required landscaping. Page 17 of 33. Trees, there's a little bit of non-clarity there in B. And it's verbiage. What's an evergreen tree? Technically, it's one that stays green all year long. Well, then you have to replace it until it's 2 years old, then you can leave it dead according to our code. Not the point. Well, that's part of the irrigation answer. If they don't have a watering system in, then this stuff craps out and dies. My only, and I'm not sure what the right language is. What we've got, evergreen trees refers to coniferous trees and upright growing arborvitae. Yes and no. The right word here is probably conifer. That's what we mean. But there are some trees like the upright arborvitae that's not truly a conifer. So it's science jargon. What is it we're trying to do? Are we trying to get something that looks like a Christmas tree out there, or are we trying to have green year round? Because one of them that I would question is, for example, a tamarack, which is a very nice native tree, but it turns brilliant yellow in fall and drops its needles, and they're back every spring, but it looks just the same. It's a great tree, great for wet areas. So by this, I don't know, can I plant a tamarack? Can I plant an upright juniper or a yew? It may
So let's just add the variety.
just say it's, yeah, I guess I'm grappling with whether we even want to call them evergreen trees. But it's trying to fill a spatial niche, so it's almost as good a name as any. We've got canopy and shade, we've got shrubs, we've got ornamental trees. So well, again, I would argue that a tree doesn't have to have leaves on it in the winter to look good. A tamarack looks really nice in winter. Got great skeleton, you see them up north.
Yeah, I'm not arguing, I'm trying to clarify. What's going through my head is the tree is really providing artificial or natural screening is what the purpose is. So they just happen to be an evergreen. So I think that's what the purpose of that tree is. Agree or disagree?
For the evergreen, yeah, that provide this screening effect year round. Yeah.
So if you want to call them evergreen trees, then this should just read evergreen trees refers to coniferous trees and upright growing arborvitae. I understand what they're trying to make the distinction there because technically it's not, but we use them all the time. And then we should just also state in there, including yews, junipers, and tamaracks. Because those are all commonly used plants for those needs. They've got, junipers are usually lower, but they've got them that grow 20 feet tall, so. Okay. Yep. Then we go to 20 of 33, H landscape plan. Insert the word professional in front of landscape architect. Because in Wisconsin, you're either a licensed professional landscape architect or you're a landscape designer. If in order to call yourself a landscape architect, you need a license, just like an engineer. Same deal. If you can't get the license, you don't have the education or experience, then you're a landscape designer. So it should, no, professional landscape architect. That's just like PEs. It's more recent law. An engineer is a PE, a professional engineer. A professional landscape architect is someone that has the degree and the state license, just like an engineer. And if you don't have that, then you just have to call yourself a landscape designer. And you can still do the same thing.
I think we're talking about the same thing, but I'm,
Yeah, insert the word for clarity because it's state law. You're going to call somebody a landscape architect or a professional. It's on H1, yes.
but they have to have a license to be able to call it professional.
Correct. Or you can't even call yourself a landscape architect.
So I'm suggesting we use the word licensed rather than professional.
You may.
Because
You
you
may.
can't argue it.
And either way.
But the language says, or, I mean, landscape architect or landscape designer. So you're proposing
You're
to
differentiating.
remove
No, you
the
leave.
landscape designer? Oh,
We're willing, I mean, right now, the reality is most of the landscape plans we see are either being done by engineers or by nurseries. A lot of them are done by engineers, if you look at the signature block. So the point is it's a standard that should be there, and we're accepting either.
okay.
What the city's
Okay.
saying is we have a preference for somebody with experience in landscape plans, not just how things are built.
So regular, it's prepared by a licensed landscape architect or,
Landscape
Landscape
design.
designer.
And we move on. 22 of 33, J, invasive species prohibited. This is good to adopt Wisconsin's NR 40, the list, they keep it updated. Franklin also has its own list of prohibited plantings. So if it's a required landscape plant, you can't use these. And it's mainly because they're invasive, but there are some reasons for others. So if you go to the existing UDO, there is a list
Noxious weeds
Yep.
list, yep.
in the code.
Thing-
So we should just show that list there or reference the section exactly where it is.
It's the noxious weeds.
It's the noxious weeds list plus.
Yeah, there's also nuisance trees.
Yes.
But, yeah, that's municipal code,
And
right?
most all of these will show up on the Wisconsin NR 40 invasive species list, but not all. That's a state list.
Some of them are native species.
Yes. Well, we should have no problem planting any natives. That's my concern. That's what we should be planting. And that's what the existing list does, is it excludes non-natives, basically. Known invasive plants and non-natives. Norway maples. Extremely weedy. It's one of the most common plants out there.
May I add a comment there? The city forester has developed a list of preferred trees. It's not part of the code, but the environmental commission has reviewed it with him, and then he's got kind of an ongoing developing thing, so that excludes Norway maples. It's not cited anywhere in the code, but this might be a
I'm-
place where
I'm-
it could be discussed.
That's great, and I'm saying it should be shown here. Either we reference the section in it or just list them right here. It's only a paragraph long. And so it should be NR 40 and the following species. Sorry, we're getting in the weeds here. And I'm a little bit confused by the last sentence in I, but I'm imagining that that came from, I'd be willing to talk to City Forester about this. I mean, the point is, we want it crystal clear. It's one of the toughest things, especially with plant cultivars, varieties, because they write that on and you don't know. It doesn't sound like it's a Norway maple, but it is, because it's got a different, fancier name.
Yeah, it's Acer something.
Acer,
No, just so you know that we sent this draft to the city forester.
good. Well, maybe he and I should talk. The idea is you want a definitive list, and then within that, you can have a subsection that are recommended. But you definitely, there's a lot of plants that you do not want to plant. I mean, you could still buy buckthorn in a nursery. Why would you pay for it? I've got plenty for you.
Valid question. The city can give it away for free.
So anyway,
I-
municipal code, right?
And we might want to revisit that. Again, I'd be willing to have a discussion with the city forester. Let's just get the list right. I'm just going to point out, I'm on 23 of 33 in section E. And this is landscaping at monument signage, I believe. Trees have to have a clear trunk height of 6 feet. That makes sense. Oh, I'm sorry, this is in a parking lot. And the other, you can have mature shrubs, ground cover, or other landscaping material may not exceed 3 feet in height. I'm going to say that most of our parking islands have plants that get far above 3 feet in height. So it's a mixture thing, because part of the idea of vegetation in a parking lot is to screen cars and break that all up and green it. But at the same time, you have site visibility issues. You're driving around and you don't want to smack into somebody after you go around a shrub hanging out. So I'm not sure what it is. I'm just currently exceed 3 feet in height. I don't know. If the idea is
Because-
you're trying to screen a parking lot, you want something that gets 5 feet in height.
Because, yeah, you're right. It is not clear where will this be applicable. Being close to a driveway or close to a driving lane.
There may be an
Yeah,
advantage
yeah.
to
Okay.
being taller along the street.
Okay.
I don't know if we even need to say that, what the maximum height is. Let's run over past the consultants. I think I'm good.
Anybody else? Stuff up to signs,
Okay.
178.8 doesn't specify the noxious weed ordinance. I gotta find that.
Yeah.
But it specifies
And we might
enforcement.
want to revisit it. That's old stuff.
No, we just revised it last year.
The noxious weed list.
Oh, yeah, it changed.
Awesome.
Was it last year or the year before? You weren't here. Anyway, somewhat recent.
Oh, no. We should review that and get it right.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Regular.
Ready for signs? Okay.
Going once, going
Okay.
twice.
Yeah. So this article for science is a totally new language. There are some aspects that are being maintained, like for example, the sign area, the location, projection, height standards has been preserved, as well as some technical aspect like the wind pressure and stresses that is more related to building code. But one new feature with this article is a lot of graphics. The current municipal code section for signs doesn't have any graphic, no, not even a single graphic. So this is new. Questions for the task force. The first question is for billboards, roof signs, and marquee signs. Can you go to the next slide? Because the current municipal code allows for this type of signage, and the proposal is to make these 3 types of signs as prohibited signs: the billboard, roof signs, and marquee signs. And that's the question for the commission, is this appropriate to prohibit these signs?
I'm okay with going down the path, but we're going to run into some challenges. City attorney's going to have his opinion. But I'm okay with it. Anybody else? Kevin?
I agree to prohibiting them. There's no reason. I mean, I think there's only one billboard in Franklin, and that got there by accident. 27th Street. Yeah, that's the one I'm.
Oh, you're saying that one got there by accident?
Yeah, so that, it shouldn't have been there. Actually, I think they are prohibited. And they should be. We don't need billboards in Franklin. You don't? Wait till it falls down. Hey, there's little you can do. If they permitted it and built it, it's there.
The next question is similar. These are for signs with moving parts. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
No need for that.
And the last question is for feather signs. This is our new type of signage. This is not even listed in the municipal code, so the proposal is to allow for these signs.
That's getting close to being the signs with moving parts, because the base is not nailed down. So this is not rigid, and this isn't rigid. So this can spin around, and this will wave at you. But they're all over the city. You know, I'd just bring it up for conversation. These are always temporary too. Kevin?
That was one of the questions I wanted to bring up, because we've got the changes here and they look pretty good, but if I want to put a campaign sign up in my front yard, do I need a permit? We should state, you know, and these. So if some of the lesser ones, if a permit isn't required, you just have to comply with the code. That's the way it should be. But it's not clear in here. If we could get to the one where the ground mounted signs.
There's just a section about political.
We have there's the table that says when the sign is permitted,
Yep.
if it requires a permit or not. So like, for example, the
15 of 24 yard signs.
the yard sign. Oh, no, go ahead.
So there, it might just be to our advantage to say, you must comply, but a permit's not required, or are we going to require that? You got election signs, you got rummage sale signs in people's front yards. We can regulate them, but do you want them to have to come down here, pull a permit, and then go through the whole enforcement action?
A lot to expect. You know, and especially, I don't know, I just think you see so many people, especially in May and June, you know, put the graduation signs in their yards, or they have the little wooden signs for, you know, what sport the kids are playing in and things like that. And I guess that's all part of A, freedom of speech on your own personal property, and B, sort of your yard decoration. Some people like gnomes, some people like signs.
Right, and so my suggestion, I think, is simple, and maybe it's, well, we're not doing the feathers, but you've got the A-frames, the sandwich boards, the realtor signs, and these. So have the standard, say, these signs must comply with this, but a permit is not required for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
That right out there, and then it's clear that everything else requires a permit. And
That's
this
fair.
gives you some enforcement,
That's fair.
because that's part of the problem. I mean, we've got serious issues with. Well, election signs, don't get me started. I mean, did you
Some
read the
people have
section
like
in here?
17.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're not supposed to be in the right of way.
Yeah,
All
there's
17 of them.
but there's a state law change on that.
Well, our ordinance says no, but this draft says.
Right, but it doesn't matter what our ordinance says or state law overrules it.
Whatever
Is
happened
this
to home
just
rule?
relative to election signs only? Oh, well. There's other signs that are in people's front yards.
Oh, yeah,
That
it's-
don't belong there.
Or on
Yeah.
the sides of their houses and fences and
Fences aren't allowed on fences.
there's a lot of them.
Yeah, being a politician, I'm looking at the yard signs here, 4x3. Thinking that's a fairly large sign.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right, I'm good.
Oh, Just what I was saying, 21 of 24, A9. Signs, these are prohibited signs and content. Signs located, erected, or maintained upon, over, or into any public right-of-way or easement, unless allowed by this article. So, everybody's putting the campaign signs, for example, right out at the street. That's not supposed to be. That's street
Like on
right-of-way.
76th
You look at me like I'm gonna argue with you. I'm not gonna
No,
argue
no, I
with you.
think
They
we
don't
would all
belong in
agree,
there
but I
right
don't
away.
know how you enforce that, because it's going to make a whole lot of people unhappy. But it's what we're doing here. We're allowing them, and they have a limited time frame and locations.
There was a time the police would pick them up. Not
Three-
that that's what I want our
3 years
police
ago, they got a
doing.
whole bunch of mine that weren't in the right of way.
To your point though, Mayor, the 4x3 sign. Maximum of 4 square feet, so if you get a 4x3, one of your bigger political signs, that's. not
Well,
allowed.
maybe they shouldn't be there either. The 8-footers?
Oh, we do enforce, during election, we don't, it's enforced to the extent that the, oh, that, see, that's freedom of speech stuff. That crosses over into freedom of speech stuff. That's right. Yeah, I mean, this part of the ordinance is gonna have discussion when the man that sits there gets here, so. Yeah. What else you got?
That's all the question for policy direction, unless you have any additional questions.
22 of 24, item B, under 15609. Failure of owners to keep signs maintained shall be deemed a violation of this ordinance. What's the penalty? What's the cure? We need to direct them to a section
Okay.
or something. Violation, yeah, well.
Okay.
How do we fix that? And yeah, we're going to have some issues with the prohibited content, with freedom of speech stuff. That's good. Nope.
I'm waiting for the word prurient to enter this ordinance. That's an old broadcast FCC term. Anybody else? We've come to the end of the agenda. Have we not?
On the
Well-
last page is 24 of 24.
There's no segments. Commissioner Haley.
Review and action. Plan Commission shall review the comprehensive sign plan application and appeals by the Plan Commission. That's the way we want it. Do we want council involvement? I mean, right now, we're putting review and appeals in the hands of the Plan Commission. I'm not saying that's inappropriate, but who's going
It
to do
doesn't
it?
seem fair.
Currently, the master sign program is a plan commission item.
Correct.
So we're at,
And I'm good with that. My question is to the elected officials in the room, do you need to see this stuff? Are we comfortable with letting the Plan Commission make the final decision?
I am.
But unless it's particularly large of the project, I think commission make a recommendation. It's maybe
Plan Commission may waive to the Common Council,
And they can appeal to the Board of Zoning and Building Appeals.
Board of Council, yeah. Yeah, my whole thing on these signs is, what we did for Ballpark Commons, I think, is more appropriate than putting strict dimensional limits on things. You know, if a sign looks good, who cares? But Regulo's going, yeah, but that's subjective. Yeah, well, yeah, it is. You know? All right, former Alderwoman Hogan moved to adjourn. Is there a second to that? Seconded by Commissioner Hanley. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.